Welcome back to an all-new episode of When the Game Ends. Ben Holden, Mike Carmen. Carmen, it's been a couple of weeks, and apparently the AI has decided to give us a new song. Did you notice that? The music and the countdown?
I knew something was different. I didn't know that's what it was till you just said it. I was like, what is different right now? I was trying to figure that out. I only had 30 seconds to figure it out. And in case you noticed, like I'm actually sitting when the countdown stops, unlike the Gigi interview, which apparently I was running around and I was sitting down as it started. So I was about a second too late and it caught me.
I didn't catch that until I was doing clips on Instagram, and I always go in. I load the full episode, so we drive some traffic to the episodes, and I was checking it, and it just popped up that way when I checked it. And I was like, oh my god, that's hilarious! But congrats to your Gophers. We got another guy you're probably going to have to take some bullets from. You've been unbelievable on this podcast between Michigan State guys, North Dakota guys taunting you with a flag behind you. Lamoureux did. He's a former Spartan. He's a natty champ in 06, 07, had a 12-year career in the NHL. One of the best humans I've been around in my time in college hockey for over 20 years. An amazing family. Was always fun to watch. Bryan Lerg is our guest. We're going to bring Lergy in here in a minute, but tell us how you guys are connected, because it seems like every episode we do, we're all connected in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah, well, first of all, I covered my bases. The Gopher pictures behind me, the bobbleheads there. I'm wearing the Gopher sweatshirt, and
Proudly.
he has two legs up on me right now. The first one being, yes, we shared the regular season title, but they got the tiebreaker and the number one seed and the bye in the first round. And
that's right.
He won a national championship while I was at school as well.
Ouch.
At Minnesota. So he's got a couple legs up on me there, although we did beat them that year that they won. I will throw that out there in the old college hockey showcase. But no, we were just chatting before, and it's funny how much we overlap, like with coaches, with teammates, things like that. Again, never played with each other, but I feel like just missed each other by a year in a couple different spots, and just tons of connections through teammates. We could have been talking for 2 hours before we even hopped on. So looking forward to getting into it with him today.
And you guys both are connected through John Hines and our good friend David Quinn. You played for him twice. I don't think Lergy did. I think he was in Colorado when he was with Lake Erie. But without further ado, let's bring in our guest here. There he is, bottom of your screen, Bryan Lerg. Lergy, good to see you. Got the tooth back in, or you're going full grill today, right?
Oh yeah. No, it's finally finished. Completely all set in there and set in stone.
Well, good to see you, man. And the premise of this is, and we ran into each other, and it's so good to reconnect with you, man. We had so many good times over the years. Whether it was calling your games or away from the ice at time to time with your family and Danny Fardig's family. That's how I got so connected with you and your family. When the game ends, let's just kind of start there. Like, how did you know it was time for your game to end and time to retire from playing and move on to the next phase of your life, man?
Honestly, it's pretty simple answer is my wife was putting my socks and shoes on for about 6 to 9 months, and then I figured I probably can't be playing hockey anymore, and I had some back problems that I struggled with throughout my career. And I kept getting by, seeing my trainer at Michigan State, Dave Carrier, known as Ace, best in the world. I mean, he had guys like Ryan Miller flying back from Anaheim just to see him over NHL trainers. So that just goes to show you, how well they have the staff there at Michigan State. He's no longer there, but obviously still part of it and teaching all the young kids. But anyways, yeah, my back blew out one last time, one of many, and I was trying to rehab, come back, skate, and it wasn't happening. I knew it was time to hit the shelf and hang them up and move on from there. So it was a tough, I would say it was a tough 9 months. I was trying to play. Went to Hartford on a tryout because I wanted to be back in the States after being in Europe. We were having a baby. So I was like, this is time to come back to the U.S. And I couldn't perform at the level I wanted to with my back problems, and it really was a tough way to go out, and I think it left kind of a salty taste the way I went out because I never knew when my last game was. So that was a struggle for me for sure. But that being said, hey, I'm happy where I'm at right now. Have four kids, beautiful wife, everyone's healthy, happy, and now I've moved on, and now I'm coaching my son and got tryouts next week. So I got to cut about 35-year-olds. So that should be fun. Try and tell 5-year-old kids they're not making the team. I won't enjoy that. That's for sure.
Ouch. Might be harder to tell the parents.
Exactly. Yeah. That's why I think everything's going to be via email these days.
Good move, Lergy.
I can resonate with that one, Larry. I coach AAA, and it's my least favorite time when I have to do cuts for the kids. It's never fun, no matter what age they are. So that's always a pain. It's interesting. You brought up the salty taste of not knowing that it was gonna, like, when your last game was gonna be, and I was in the same boat. Like my last game was Game 6 conference finals up in St. John's, up in Newfoundland there. With Wilkes-Barre, we went on a run, and that, oh my God, for as depressing as it was to lose the series up there, can't complain about getting stuck there for a night. Old George Street. Oh man. But yeah, so I know that feeling well, and it's something that I feel like the people that we talk to that are okay with their career ending at the time were very much like, hey, like, I knew this is my last year, I knew it was time to go. But the reality of it is, like, for you dealing with an injury, like, you don't know, like, I suppose in the back of your head, you're thinking it's going to change. It's going to switch. It's going to get a little better. I can keep going. Right. Is that kind of where your head was at?
Yeah. I mean, I was skating, getting ice by myself, skating, trying to rehab, seeing doctors, seeing therapists, taking injections. I mean, I can't tell you the amount of injections I took in my back, trying just to play one more season. Because I just kept thinking, oh, I like to do it one more time. Let my son maybe, he's not going to remember it, but be there for it. And it just wasn't happening. I mean, I would go to strength train. I couldn't do what I wanted to do, and it just wasn't there. So, my last game was in Switzerland, and it wasn't on my note either. This is my finger right now. I've had.
Wow.
I took a skate. I went to block a shot, and I fell backwards. My own skate cut through my glove, cut a tendon. I had surgery on this once in Switzerland. It was fine, and then I started training again. And the more I would grip bars, working out, it would curl up, and now it's just completely stuck. I went and saw the Winks hand specialist probably about 2 years ago, and he said, hey, I'll do surgery, but I don't like going into surgery unless I know I'm going to win. And this one, I don't think I'm going to win. So you need to be willing to wake up with no pinky. And I just walked out of that office and I said, hey, I'm good, man. I can deal with it. So that was the worst part, because I had a few injuries in Switzerland. I had a high ankle sprain early on for 12 weeks, and then get back, get healthy, start playing, get my groove, get back into shape. And then this happens. And so I only played 17 games in Switzerland that year. I enjoyed the time in Switzerland, but it was just a injury filled year. And that also made it even tougher to go out that way, because I felt like going to Switzerland was like my next door was opening. And I felt like I could make a career out of this and stay there for a couple of years. And once that injury happened, and then the back blew out later that summer when I was training, I was like, yep, this is time. This is time.
It's never been, real quick here, it's never fun to be it's never fun to be injured, obviously, but at least you were in Switzerland injured. You weren't up in Siberia somewhere. We're dealing with that. And we had Ebed on a few weeks ago or a month ago, whatever that was. Now I can't keep track of the episodes, Penny. And Ebby was just, singing the praises of being in the Swiss league. And I mean, that Swiss A League is something that everybody raves about. I don't think I ever heard anybody say they had a bad experience there.
Yeah. I mean, hate to say it, and probably shouldn't say it on camera, but it was a nice paid vacation for a year for me.
You're
You're
retired now.
You can say whatever you want.
You can say it.
Yeah. So no, me and my wife was pregnant, and we just ended up traveling, and the team they weren't making playoffs. They were in like that little mixed stage, like safe area. And so I ended up going home. I think it was like late February, early March, and I never thought that would be the last time I played a game. And later in that summer, I figured that out. Going to Hartford and blowing my back out again, doing a stupid deadlift test. So
the lifting has changed so much. Oh my God.
Yeah. So how long did it take for you, like the mental side of it, because that fascinates me about you guys. I mean, I remember meeting you. You were 18 years old, man, and now you're almost 40. So I'm over 50. So like you go through life, you go through all these changes, man, and I want you to know that we're not just gonna talk about all this serious stuff here. We're gonna dive into some fun stuff too, Lergy. But like since we're on this kind of this wave right now, we started this way. Like when did you like fully become at peace with your career, with being done? Tell us about that and what you experienced in that regard.
That is a tough question. So I would say I've been with my company now for about 5 years. I would say I'm finally at peace with it I'd say about 2.5 years ago. It took over 2 years to really be okay with it, because I tried to act like I was okay with it, and I knew deep down I wasn't.
Yeah.
I mean, you go through a lot. I mean, I'm sure you've talked to many players and hear many things. I mean, it's hard. You don't know what to do. I mean, we had my wife was pregnant, and I was training, and I kept saying I was going to play. And after Switzerland, my paycheck stopped in April, and we didn't have 1 cent of income for 9 months. And I'm just I'm grinding it out, trying to play. Where am I going to go? Maybe do I just go to Germany? Do I do this? And then I got to the point where she's looking at me. She's like, I'm putting your socks and shoes on for the last 9 months. What do you like?
Yeah.
And we sat down, had that talk, and it was time to be done. But it took, I would say, a solid 2 years to really accept it. I think early on, if you asked me, I'd be like, yeah, I'm fine. Because I wanted to like tell myself I was fine with it. But you go through that, depression, you try and figure life out. What am I going to do? And granted, yes, I did get a job about the 10th or 11th month, as we're talking about that. But I'm also walking into something completely blind that I know nothing about. And then I get into that, and then you're stressed about, how the hell do I do this now? And in the back of my mind is like, should I just quit this job and go play again? Literally, like everything goes through your head. And I mean, there's days now, like people are like, do you miss it? I don't miss it. I don't miss playing. I'm excited to watch my kids grow and play and go through it. And I've learned a lot where I think I'll try and lead them the right way. But I also think you got to cut ties at certain times too. I had a good career, had a lot of fun, especially Michigan State. Learned a lot along the way from John Hines, David Quinn, all these coaches. Like I have a lot to be grateful for. Had a ton of injuries later in my career, and I mean I had plenty of great bounce backs too. In Cleveland, I blew out both ACLs in a 13-month span. And
wow.
I blew one out, and 13 months later blew the other one out. So that's why I only played like 27 games and 35 games for Cleveland. But I was still their captain. David Oliver was the best human in the world. He had me around the rink, around helping coach the guys, helping do this and that. And I'm like, he made me a part of the game. So I've learned so much throughout all this, and I know I'm kind of rambling, but
no, you're good.
But over time, I think now where I'm at, I'm happy with where I'm at now, and it's been a road, man. It's been up and down. It's been crazy, highs and lows, and you don't know what the hell to do one day, and then next day you're just, now I'm at my normal job and I'm coming home to 4 kids and I'm like about to blow the doors off because I don't know who needs what. So
Right.
it's been fun. It's been a good experience, but I feel like, when I went out was the right time.
So, your mental state, we'll just say mental state, when you got done playing was pretty similar to mine. I'm curious because I made the absolute worst mistake I possibly could have made and decided that I was going to go into coaching youth hockey full time and training right out of the gate when, let's be honest, like you said, I still wanted to be playing. I wasn't ready to be done. I told people I was fine. I wasn't. And then to be around a rink all the time. So my question is, how long did it take for you to be okay being around? Like, I didn't even want to watch hockey at that point, right? Like, let alone be coaching. So I'm just curious if that's something that, took you a little bit of time to even be able to like comfortable wanting to watch games on TV. What was that like for you?
Carmi, you hit the nail on the head, man. I did not watch an NHL hockey game. I can't even tell you how long it was. It had to have been, unless it was playoffs, I don't think I watched a regular season game for 2 or 3 years.
Wow.
Like, I had no interest. I had zero interest. I didn't give a shit about anything. I hated hockey. I hated the sport. I'll be honest. It sounds so bad. But I truly just like had a really bad taste in my mouth from it. And then once my son was born and he got into watching hockey, now that's all that's on the TV right now. I mean, he loves it. We're playing every day. I mean, we're gonna have a great little team of 5-year-olds this coming spring. It's gonna be hilarious. We got Hensick, we got Moss, we got myself, my brother. Yeah, Nar's not on that one. He's actually on my older brother's team.
Okay.
So but it's all a whole group of guys that everyone we all know, and it's great kids, great family. It's gonna be a lot of fun. But going back to what you said, no, I was the same way, man. It was brutal. I didn't care for it. I didn't care what was going on. To be honest, Michigan State sucked at the time. I didn't watch them. I didn't jump on Michigan State's bandwagon until Adam was hired. And the reason is because he was my line mate my freshman year, and I know the type of person he was, and I knew he was going to turn that place around. So,
yeah. Well, we'll get into that a little bit. 2 things are in my mind right now, and I'm going to ask the first one here. You mentioned all those guys that, names that Carmi and I know, that college guys that are Michigan guys. But for maybe some people out there watching, Lergy, give us just go off like both your hands and rattle off the amount of guys. It's very similar to where Carmi's from, but the amount of guys that are from the hockey hotbed of Livonia, Michigan, where you're from, man. Just give us some of the guys you're closest with.
I mean, if you're talking about like even Livonia guys, I don't still talk to Kessler that much, but Ryan Kessler, Chris Connor, myself. I mean, Steve Oleski, he's from, the east side. Matt Taramina, he's from the east side. But they're all in this same hockey world that we run into each other at the rinks. And then you have myself, Danny Fardig, TJ Hensick, David Moss, another guy that played baseball at Michigan, Van Buskirk. And he grew up playing on Honey Baked as well. So, like, we have so many guys. It's crazy. Like, me and my one buddy are the coaches. But I'm like looking around. I'm like, hey, I got 4 kids. I'm gonna need help. I'm not gonna struggle for help. That's for sure. Like,
right? No.
Tryouts next week. I'm not even going on the ice. I'm letting Moss Hensick, and my brother run it because we have so many kids out there. I need to watch these kids. It's so hard to watch them when you got 45-year-olds out there. You're trying to wrangle them, tell them to turn what way, and so it's like,
and they want to fall down.
Yeah. I mean, it's
legitimately crazy, like herding cats.
Yeah.
It's a big hockey hotbed here, man.
It really is, man. It's amazing. It's so impressive. So the other thing, Carmi, that I wanted to mention, and we may shift gears to another direction after I ask this, whatever way it goes, we go with the flow. But you're wearing the Shark shirt. When you and I reconnected after a lot of years of not communicating because you're doing your thing, I'm doing my thing. Great to reconnect. And you told me the story about your first NHL game. You're proudly wearing that Sharks hoodie there. You got 8 games in the show. Share with the story on the one goal that you scored in the National Hockey League. What a hell of a moment that was. I can't wait to hear you tell this story, Lergy. Share it with us how it happened.
Yeah, it was, I mean, I don't know how you read it much better. It was pretty cool. I will say that.
Yep.
So I got called up, and I actually got called up and flew to San Jose, and they were playing Dallas at home. And my parents weren't going to make it because it was so last minute. And I was told that Hurdle was sick. And so I took warm-ups, and they're like, yeah, you might go. Hurdle's sick. And I'm like, yeah, right. I'm not going. Blah blah blah. And I know that whole story. I remember all the other kids from the East Coast League called up the AHL thinking I'm not going to play, and you always play. So that's just hockey players. And so long story short, I didn't play that game, and then we could fly out to Edmonton and go and play my first game there. And my parents and my younger brother make it out for that game. But I think one of the main points of the story, best parts, is out of college after Michigan State, I signed with Edmonton Oilers, and I don't have a very good taste in my mouth with them. It didn't go well for 2 years in their minor league system, and didn't play as much as I hoped, and just never really the opportunity that I thought I was getting. And hey, it's not their fault, not my fault, whatever. I mean, it's just hockey, it's business. And so being the first team I signed with, and then getting my first game in that arena where I was doing training camps with them, was first off a really fun thing to do. And then I'm sitting there on the bench, and I played for, I don't know how many minutes I even played that night. I have to look. I probably played like 8 or 9 minutes at that point, and I'm on the 4th line with John Scott, and he looks over at me. He's like, "Hey, kid." He looks over at me on the bench. "Hey, kid, you might want to untie your skates. We're done for the night." And I'm like, what? I'm like, really? And he's like, "Yeah, we're not gonna. We should not even shift down the bench." I'm like, "Oh shit!" And I'm like, "Okay, whatever." And then all of a sudden, Todd McClellan, the coach of the Wings now, he's like, "Hey, Larry, you're going." I'm like, "Oh." I'm like, "Oh boy, here we go." And he's like, Couture and Marlowe, he puts me out with like 2 minutes left in our own zone. He's like, go play the wing. I'm like, "Are you sure?" And he's like, "Yeah, get out there." And so I get out there, and I think, I don't remember exactly how the play played out. I'd have to rewatch it, but I think Cooch won the face-off, and then we went straight up the ice, and it had to have been less than 10 seconds from that face-off. Couture made a nice dangle, and our D-man drove through the middle and hit me on the far side, and I scored the game winner with like probably 2 minutes left in the game. And that was my first goal, first game, and it was a good way to do it, I guess.
That's
good
amazing.
Icebreaker into the NHL. That's awesome.
That's incredible,
really
man.
Cool.
Now,
Benny told me something before. I know Lergy, we don't really know each other, very much, except cross paths, kind of playing against each other a lot. And you seem like a humble guy that's not going to volunteer this. But Benny told me something about how Couture said it was like one of the coolest goals he'd ever been a part of. So that's a pretty big honor.
Yeah, no, Cooch was unreal, man. Like he was so, like, all those guys were amazing. I'll never forget. Like, funny story, probably shouldn't even say it, but to get back to the bench, and Joe Thornton, I get back to the bench, and he's like celebrating, and Jumbo's looking at me. He's like, "Jesus, where the hell's this kid been all year?" He's like, "Why haven't we called him up?" And I'm like, just hearing Jumbo say that just made my whole career right there. Like, you got a guy like Joe Thornton saying something like that to the head coach, like, "Hey, where's this guy been all year?" I was like, damn. I'm like, I know it's late in the year, but like, that's quite the compliment. And then, you can look at your phone after the game, you got like 400 text messages, and things are going just crazy. You don't even know what to believe at this point, because it's like, it seems like a full-on dream. And you know what? Todd McClellan is one of the best guys. When he got hired for Detroit, I said, this team is going to turn it on, man. because he is an awesome freaking coach, and he keeps the big guys accountable, and that's how he wins. And that's why I think he's had success with Detroit. He came down after that game. He went and met my parents in the stands, took pictures, said hi. Like not many head coaches do that in the NHL. Like he's prime time, man. Like, and then even my second year, Pete DeBoer, like unbelievable coach. No, I'm not surprised how he's had success in his career either. He is awesome. Him and Spotter, they're unbelievable coaches. So I have nothing but great things to say about the organization as a whole in San Jose, especially down in Worcester. Roy Sumner was the all-time. I don't know if he had all-time wins or losses or both, but he was the man. He was awesome, and he had a big say in a lot of this with me getting called up, and can't thank them enough for everything.
You mentioned Worcester. Now, my only experience being in Worcester was coming to play the Sharks, and we had 1 or 2 NCAA regionals out there, and I remember just not being over impressed. I remember coming to play Worcester. There's nobody in the stands. What was your experience like there? Did you guys have fun there? Because this is coming from, you played in Cleveland too. A lot of people talk poorly about Cleveland. I think Cleveland was undercover one of the very fun city, right? I'm sure you were at the same spots we were.
Barley House.
Barley House, yep.
Dude, I absolutely love Cleveland. Everyone's like, yo, you're living in Cleveland? What? And I'm like, yeah, dude, this place is unreal. Like, I lived in the Flats my first year and then out in Crocker Park my second year, and both spots were awesome. But I mean, dude, I've never seen Browns fans so nuts in my life. You would see guys pass out on the bar at 12 noon on a Sunday, right when the bar opens. Like, it is like that was like one of the most fun spots I've ever had. Granted, I was hurt a lot. I got to enjoy it a little more, but it was an unbelievable place to be in Cleveland. And then moving on to Worcester is just Worcester is Worcester. Like, there's not much there.
It is. So it's what I saw. That's exactly what it is.
Okay. You better have a good group of guys that get along, because that's what we had. And we had an awesome group. We would just go to little dive spots, hang out, do our thing. And we had a close-knit group. But I'll never forget going back to Roy Sumner's being the head coach there forever. Tim Kennedy, that played with me at Michigan State, he played in San Jose's organization for a while. And I signed with San Jose, and I said, hey, Timmy, what's the deal with like Roy and Worcester and all this with San Jose? He goes, you've never played pro hockey until you played for Roy Sumner. He's like, this guy is a beauty. Dude, he took us we would go on a camping trip at the beginning of the year. Like, you wouldn't have cell phones, nothing. You would cook all your food in the woods, and he would take us out camping. And I'm like, what pro hockey team does this? Like, like, I've never heard of this in my life. So it's you really get a lot from that San Jose organization. I feel like they do things differently, but I also think they're a very good organization.
Well, that's also like stuff like that. I mean, especially in pro, in a way, like, you get on the right team, a good mix of guys, it's great. But I mean, guys are switching teams every year, half the time. Like, there's not the same camaraderie as like you have in college, right? And so doing stuff like that makes a huge deal. So that's why I was going to ask. In Wilkes, did you guys go to? It was like maybe an hour or two outside of town. It was up in the mountains, some like old resort. I think it was. I can't remember the name of it.
Was it Poconos or?
I think Poconos are the mountains there.
Yeah, something like that. But I remember going out there. Heinze had some team building thing going.
Yep.
But that's funny you say that, because Worcester and San Jose, or Worcester and Wilkes-Barre were the only two teams that I feel like we had that in pro. And Heinze obviously gets it from USA, because he's all about the team bond and this and that. You don't get that at the pro level much. And that's the one thing why I like college so much, is because it's all about the guys. Like, literally the year we won the national championship, every Sunday we went down to a certain spot, and that was our spot. And we had a blast. And I'll never forget our captain, Chris Lawrence. We won, we had a week off between the Frozen Four and we had the selection show, and then we had a week off. And we're like, dude, we can't go out there Sunday. We got to go to the Frozen Four. We play on like Thursday. And he's like, we're not changing a thing. And we had the whole entire team down at our little dive bar in East Lansing, and we did our same thing we did all year, and that was just explains the team camaraderie. Like, we weren't the best team, we snuck in the tournament. Like, I'm watching these teams play right now. Penn State reminds me of Michigan State in 07. They are on a tear right now, and
Yep.
I would not want to play them, and they're going to probably sneak in the tournament, and they could surprise some people. And we played BU our first game. We weren't supposed to win. We beat them like 5-1, beat Notre Dame, move
Yep.
on to the Frozen Four. No way we should have beat BC. They're way more talented than us. We had a team, man, that guys just bought in.
The current team at Michigan State reminds me a lot of your team. It really does. And that's because of your cousin, the guy that manned the pipes. I think Trey Augustine is that guy where it starts from the net out. And they're just a 4-line team, man. I mean, I really mean that, Lergy. I think I agree with you on Penn State. I've had them a couple times, but I think the current team with your, as you mentioned, your former line mate, you know, and there were, I'm sure you can speak to this if you want, but being an alum, we're like, man, a third time we're going to try this with an alum, but this time it worked, and guys want to play for Knights, and that's why it's worked. But just give me a thought on more so, how does this group of Spartans compare, or do they remind you of your team that won?
No, they do. They do 100%.
Yeah.
Adam is like the most humble person in the world. He is, you hear him talk to the media. He knows his stuff. He's one of the most well-spoken coaches out there. And I mean, now is the time. I mean, this is their year. What happens if they, you know, lose a few guys? Maybe, yeah, they're going to have good guys coming in. But I mean, you have a Trey Augustine in net right now. This is the time to win. They definitely remind me of our team. They have some two top lines up front that can really get it going, and that's kind of what we had. But if you look down at their fourth line, their fourth line is unbelievable.
It is.
That Shane Bensagi and Manisto, these kids, like, they're contributing. They're difference makers. Bensagi had, I think, 2 goals the other night. And I'm like, he's on the fourth line. He's going to get drafted in the top 30. I'm like, what? This kid does not, he looks like a 25-year-old, and he's like 18. So, but Adam, my whole thing on Adam is he gets these kids to buy in. They buy in. They're sticking to a system. He does not care about, oh, I need to be on the power play. I need this. I got to make this kid happy. I got to make this kid's parents happy. It's not about that. I've had plenty of talks with him, and it's not that. You earn it. I mean, if you want to go to Michigan State, you gotta earn it, and you got to earn your power play time, your ice time. He doesn't care. He doesn't have favorites. He doesn't play that way. And I feel like too many programs do, where they want to promise different things and this and that. And I mean, I don't know the whole Horkoff situation with Michigan, but all I know is, you know, I think he was expected to, you know, he wanted to go to Michigan State maybe, and then play on the power play. Adam said you have to earn it. That's just how it's done. I mean, you gotta earn your way. And I love that about Adam, because he had to earn everything he did in his hockey career. And did he play in the NHL? No. But look at him now from where he was with coaching. He was coaching in Shattuck, I think, making $16,000.
Yep.
And
he's told us that. Yeah. No, you're right.
And he's had a family during this time. And then he's moving on to all these different, building his ladder. And then he gets up to Detroit. And then it's USA. And now it's Michigan State. And it's finally paid off, you know. And good for him, because he deserves it, because he really knows his stuff, and he's totally turned that alumni program around at Michigan State. I've never, ever seen so many alumni, whether they are 75, 80 years old, or if they're 24 years old and they're alumni. He includes every single one of them. We went back for senior night. They had a whole gig at the Spartan Stadium, football stadium, for all alumni, invite only, and it's all ex-players. Go and mingle, you know, talk to guys, see what they're up to now, and then go watch the game. Like, he gets there's a reason that building's packed, and that's because of Adam Nightingale for sure.
Yeah,
that's definitely something that's changed around our school too. Is in the last probably 5-6 years, like the alumni stuff has really picked up, and it's been great to have that. I mean, guys like Jordan Leopold, like Paulie Martin, these guys are leading the charge, to get alumni back around again. And I never really thought about it as a player. I don't know if it was different for you guys, Lergy, but did you see a lot of alumni around when you were playing? I don't remember seeing a ton in the summers a little bit. Like some of them will come back and still work out at school, but like it's an open door policy now. Like I go down in the locker room when there's a couple of us there, we'll go down and talk to the coaches, and we don't really know many of the guys, but just say hi to some of the guys, and it's a cool thing. Like I enjoy being able to do that. Not that I expect them to know who I am, but it's just fun to go like be a part of it, right? And I never really. I think it's something the older you get, the more you appreciate that alumni connection.
Oh, 100%.
You feel kind of the same way?
100%. Like you said, I don't remember alumni being at our games. I mean, there probably was, but maybe not hardly any at all. If there was, I couldn't tell you who. But now I feel like these kids are maybe recognizing who we are now that we introduced ourselves a few times. Like they don't know who I am until I introduce myself, or my kid's wearing a jersey. Like they have no clue. But now that they've seen us once or twice at these games, next thing you know, Joey Larson on Michigan State's down there playing mini sticks with my son till midnight after they beat Michigan. I'm like, what are you doing at the rink still? Like, but that's their dedication right now.
Yeah.
And but I agree with you. Alumni has totally changed, and obviously it sounds like for Minnesota too, which is good. I think it needs to be across the board for everyone, because those are the most important people. I'm not saying for money and donating money. It's the support. Like the conversations like I've had with a couple players may not be much, but you never know, saying one thing, how it can impact some kid's career.
For sure.
Talking to Carson Dorward or Joey Larson or any of these guys after a game, just a simple conversation. Hey, keep going, tough game, or Red Savage. I talked to him for a while and he's out for the year, and it was a tough conversation with him, but like I just try and say, things that I would want to hear, as a player at that point of my career, being injured. And hey, I've had plenty of injuries. You can get through it. Like you got a long career ahead of you. And so it's those little things that these guys remember. And I just really think the alumni support is a massive thing for these programs.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Yeah, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, you're good.
I was just gonna say that's kind of, I had that connection a little bit with Sammy Walker, who was a captain a few years back on the Gophers, and he's playing in the AHL now, but he's got a couple games up at the Wild. But I grew up coaching him like when I got done, so it was fun. I'd always shoot him a text because they went through some ups and downs, and then kind of peaked towards the end of his last couple of years there. But I would same thing, just text him like stuff I would have liked to have heard, like, hey man, don't worry about it. Like, who cares what people are saying about team, whatever, like just go out and do your thing. That type of stuff, it goes so far, I think. And having the opportunity to do that is great. Now, two things here. Number one, I think we can mutually agree on our hatred for Michigan, which is great. Even though our state and Gophers are battling right now, I can't stand Michigan. I hated North Dakota as a Gopher, but since the Big Ten has come into play, North Dakota is still public enemy number one, always will be, but Michigan is definitely closing the gap for me. I can't stand those guys. So what I was going to ask you, A, did you get recruited by Michigan coming out of Ann Arbor? I imagine you did. And B, why did you choose Michigan State?
So my dad played at Michigan. He's in the Hall of Fame there. Had a really good career, and I grew up Michigan my whole life. My whole room was maize and blue, wallpaper everywhere, all live and die Michigan. Let's just say that. I committed to Michigan at USA. When I was at USA, I committed to Michigan.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Didn't know that. Yeah.
Okay. And then we had a little meeting with Red and Billy Powers and Mel Pearson, and they said, hey, let's see how you do your 18 year. And we'll bring you in 04 as a true freshman if you have a good year. Otherwise, maybe wait a year, go play in juniors. And Omaha protected me. So that's where my cousin Jeff was at the time. So I was like, I knew I wasn't going to go to junior at that point. But I was like, whatever, let's just see how it goes. and my under 18 year at USA was my best year of probably my whole hockey career. I led our team and everything. And I just like, oh, this is a home run. I mean, I'm obviously going to Michigan next year. There's no way they can say anything else. And so I go into a meeting with Red Berenson and Billy and Mel, and sitting there with my dad, and they're telling me I'm going to be fourth line, maybe fifth line, which is not even playing. And I'm like, I just led the under 18 team and everything, and you're telling me this. And so what am I missing here? And they weren't letting up on it. I truly believe that my dad went there. They just kind of thought I was going to always go there no matter what, and just kind of get suckered into it. And I didn't. I walked out of that meeting, and I'll be honest, the first thing my dad said to me is, F them and let's go elsewhere. And I remember being in tears after that meeting, going home to Danny Fardig's house where his dad played at Michigan. He went to Michigan, and I lived with them. And I was in tears, and I was just like, what the hell just happened? And a day went by, and I uncommitted, and then I just moved on to the recruiting stage, and I went out, came down to BC, BU, Miami, and Michigan State, and actually pick up the phone to call BU and commit there, and hung up the phone as I was dialing, and changed my mind and wanted to stay home close to home, and said, screw this, I'm going to Michigan State. I'm going to shove it up their ass. And so I did.
Yeah. Right out of the gate.
Yeah.
Right out of the gate 2 years later. So that's awesome.
Yeah. So I still, I mean, granted, my dad is my biggest supporter and all that, but I still give him crap all the time, because he lost in the national championship his senior year to Wisconsin. So I tell him I got one up on you. So
and Carmi, his dad was a hell of a player, man. He had a 76-point year, right, Lergy?
Yep.
I mean, that's
impressive.
I mean, that's really impressive. It's cool to hear you tell that story to Carmi, because I obviously, had heard you.
Yeah.
We've known each other a while, and that's amazing. Carmi was talking about that too, like, and I don't want to get on bashing Michigan here, but Blake Jeffrey,
we can do that. That's okay.
We can do that.
You guys can do that. you know me. I gotta be neutral here.
I know.
But Jeffrey's story was very similar, man. So I would just say this: good for you guys, and good for doing what you did. And I'm sure you've heard this countless times, Carmi. I probably mentioned this to you. I think if Jeff was in the net at Michigan, I think they would have had a couple of natties, man. Instead, it was Bryan and his group. So
I agree, because that's the one thing I feel like, not to bash them, but I feel like they've struggled with goaltending since Montoya.
100%.
And the thing is, they wanted nothing to do with my cousin, which was kind of crazy.
Too small, right?
Too small. I mean, that's what everyone says his whole career. And I still think someone should have given him a shot in the AHL longer than he got, than half a game or a game in San Diego. But to be honest, like, my cousin was committed to Michigan for the following year. And I was trying to find a school in July. I was still trying to make a decision. And he called me. He's like, come on, let's go. Let's get back together. Because we did, ever since we were little kids, we played together. The only time we were separated was when I went to USA and he went to Omaha. And so when he is like, hey, let's do this. And I was like, yeah, let's do it. And but hey, he single-handedly won us that national championship.
Yes. So I want to ask you one question about the team. And it's probably hard to answer with one thing, but what was what were the things that held that group together so well? I was obviously around you guys a lot, doing a ton of your games, and which was incredible, and all kinds of stuff, because you guys had, the hell of the run that you did and won it all. But what were the things that really held that group together, man? What were the things that still stand out?
I would say for sure the leadership group that we had there. Chris Lawrence, our captain, He wasn't a guy that played that much. Played fourth line, and he was the biggest cheerleader in the locker room. He didn't care if he played one shift or every other shift. It didn't matter. And him and Zach McClellan was, as you know, he's just a complete character.
He's a beauty.
He's a beauty, but he is the same way. He didn't care how much he played, but he'll be that guy to do anything for the team. To be honest, our group was a really fun group and laid back group. I'll never forget when the Frozen Four was going on, and I believe had to have been North Dakota and BC played before. They must have gone to overtime or something, because I remember we were waiting around and we had an extra like 30 minutes before we could actually like get in the groove of like preparing for the game and all this. And our coach is like, Rick Comley, I think, was kind of like panicking, like, oh shit, like what are these guys doing? And walks in the locker room, like we literally had a whole game of hangman going in the room. Zach McClellan was up on a chair singing with his stick in his hand. Like you would have thought like we were just like a Saturday night at the bar. Like we were so laid back that I think that's the biggest thing. Like we weren't nervous. I get more nervous like literally watching like Michigan State play now in big games than I ever remember in that Frozen Four. Like we were just such a laid back group, and we kind of all knew our part of the team and how you buy in, and we just did it. Like we were just so laid back. We were a bubble team that I think we lost maybe one game in the second half of the year that year. Like we were on fire. We snuck in. Like there was like a game down at Joe Louis where we beat Lake State 7-6 or
third
something.
Place game.
Yeah. And that game I think was like the clincher for us to get in the tournament.
Yes, it was.
And it was like a 7-6 game, and Tyler Howell scored like the seventh goal or something. And I'm like, how is this game going to get us into the tournament now? And then next thing you know, you go on a little run. You get hot at the right time, and it was incredible. Just a very loose group. And as you've seen, probably a lot of them, Ben, lately, like they're all the same way. Like no one's changed. Everyone's just a bunch of goofballs, and I think that's the reason we wanted. Like we were just laid back and just all about each other. You know, it wasn't about who did what or who's going to have the big goal or anything like that. It doesn't matter. Like we had a blast. Like, yeah.
You've talked about him a couple times. I wanted to make sure I touched on it, but Fardig, Digger. So he ended up staying like an extra year in Ann Arbor. And that was my 17 year. So he was our captain and our leader on our team. And what a good dude. Like that guy is the best. I don't know if I've seen him since college years, but man, like you had so much respect for him, just like a natural, like lead by example, worked his absolute bag off in everything. And it was like, oh, okay, so this is what you look like after 2 years of doing the workouts we used to do there. I'm like, okay, so this is what we got to do now. But what a great guy.
Dude, he's awesome. I lived with him for 2 years. His dad and my dad were best friends, and his dad passed away a few years ago, and me and Danny have been best friends literally before I even moved in with him. But like, no, he's a absolute workhorse, and he earned his way to Michigan, and I don't believe it had anything to do with his dad playing there. He truly is like the perfect fourth line guy for Michigan. Just work, lead by example. Like we would come home from USA, and I don't know why we would do this, but we would come home from USA. Next thing you know, we'd be doing like Daryl Nelson's 300 club and be doing like squats, push-ups, and then we'd be running around the block. And I'm like, granted, hey, obviously we're getting better, but like living with him was also like a huge thing for me. Like we just pushed each other so much. And I mean, he lives a few minutes down the road, and my nephew plays with his son. So I see him all the time, talk to him all the time. Unbelievable family and person, and he hasn't changed. I mean, I just watched my nephew's game on the internet yesterday in the state finals against Heartland, and him and my brother are both hanging over the bench yelling at the ref. I'm like, oh man, nothing's changed, just a bunch of intensity, you know.
Yeah, I'm impressed you were able to do anything after those workouts. I remember especially that first year just being absolutely shot when I got home.
Oh
5
my
hours
God.
after I'd been 5 hours after you get back from the rink. And man, it's the fact you guys were still doing more. I mean, again, it just goes to show what kind of work ethic Fardig had too. But did you you had Kirk obviously then, right? Boxing
coach. Oh yeah.
Oh my God.
Dude, that guy.
You guys do the Greco-Roman wrestling and all the sparring
fireman
and
carries.
oh my God. Yep.
Oh man, that guy had us going, man. I mean, every time we'd walk in that gym and see that guy, we're like, oh shit, we're in for one today.
Yep. Yeah. No, I remember
awesome.
because you didn't know when Boxing Day was coming usually, right?
No.
I don't recall it ever being on the schedule. You either if the 18 team was in there before the 17 team, they'd be like, oh, Kirk's here. It's like, oh, great.
Yeah. You're like, how can I pull the shoot on this one? Yeah.
Quick pull a hammy walking up the stairs.
Yeah. No, they're awesome, man. They had such a great facility out in Ann Arbor and great staff, all the trainer, everyone, man. It was that's my biggest thing. I mean, we get into I'm sure you get the same thing, but throughout my whole career, you get these major junior guys arguing with you about college versus major junior, and it's no question, man. I mean, to go to school, get a degree, graduate, and get to play this sport that you love and have a great time with all your best buddies, like there's nothing better than college hockey.
Well, think about it too. I mean, major juniors, you're living with a billet still, right? And it's like at 19, 20 years old, you're living with a billet. And it's like, nope, we're on our own. We're learning trial by fire. And just the experience I think if any of those guys got to experience what we got to experience for even just a weekend, they would have been like, yeah, this is no question, right? I mean, to them, that major junior was their college, but oh my God, like I
know. And now
some of
with
the best
this whole
times of your life.
I don't know tons about it, but Ben probably knows more than me. But this whole CHL thing, like, I feel like you could see more of these kids come over and they realize how fun college is, and you're getting an education, and it's awesome, man. It's really awesome. It's a really good schedule too, and you don't have to just live and die hockey at that moment. Like you still have school, you still have friends outside of hockey, like so it's a really good community, a really good thing for everyone in college hockey, I believe.
I love that. I love the new rule. I don't know if we've really talked about it much, Ben.
I do too.
I think it's awesome, especially like giving those guys another opportunity. The guys that aren't the first round draft pick playing Canadian major juniors, right? They have an option, and and especially especially if you're not ready to go to college, right? Like your only option in the U.S. is go play in the USHL or the NAHL. Now you can go try something completely different, go major junior for a couple of years, and then come back. I think it's great. I'm excited for it.
100%.
Yeah, I do too. I mean, I think it's going to change the game, and I think it's going to help some of those, quote unquote mid-major schools. I mean, the Minnesotas, the Michigan States, the Michigans, the blue blood schools are all going to be fine, but I think it's going to be good, and I think it'll even the playing field out a little bit. Lergy, I kind of want to shift gears a little bit here as we come near the end, not to the end, but near the end, maybe 10 minutes to go in the game. I guess I'll put it to you guys that way. You're both former players. I get the sense in having talked to you, we hung out at a month or so ago, you and Freddie and I, and, you mentioned Knights in the conversation. And I know it's tough having spent time in the American League with Carmi in Cleveland, where you guys both did, to really build bonds and long-term relationships with players. But I got the sense that there was something there with you and Knights when you played together. So the question is, are there any guys that you played along the way with in your career that you took a lot from, whether it was hockey or maybe in the sense of, again, our pod, did you ever discuss, what's coming, or were you just zero focused on continuing to try to play? Any guys fit that mold for you?
As far as like when I was still deciding if I was going to play?
No, I mean like throughout your career, guys that had a big impact on you that you played with.
Yeah, no. So Adam was huge. Like I remember going in there my first day at Michigan State, and I'm like, you're always looking at these seniors, like, all right, who's gonna be nice to me and this and that, and and Adam, I feel like took me under his wing.
Okay,
especially because we were on the same line, and I'm asking him like, hey, what do you want me to do? You just tell me where to go. I'll do whatever. And he's the one telling me, no, you just play. I'll figure it out.
Right.
Like,
right.
So like he was a huge help, and as far as on ice goes, but
Mhm.
he was even more of a help when it came to off ice because
Mm.
watching Adam, like whether he played a lot in a game or whatever, maybe didn't play the night before, that guy was in the gym on the bike working his butt off trying to find
Mm.
a way into that lineup or playing more. And I'm like, oh my God, like I'm coming into college. I'm coming out of USA. I'm supposed to, you know, be some USA kid. And
Yeah.
I got him over here transferring from Lake State to play over here at Michigan State, and I'm playing with him. I better be
Yeah.
doing what he's doing or more. And so I really picked up on a lot of, what he was throwing off there. And him and his brother, Jared, who's now
Yep.
coaching the East Coast League,
Yep.
they both are just incredible people, incredible hard workers. So I would say he was a big influence on me at Michigan State. And
Mhm.
then talking to a lot of the different alumni, like I would say more so like Hutchinson. He was a D-man at Michigan State. He played with
Yeah.
me in Wilkes-Barre along with Corey Potter.
Yeah.
Those guys were really big influences because they were like guys that were gonna play in the NHL. And so
Mhm.
I was like watching every move they made, and it's like, oh, okay. And then even when I was in Wilkes with Hutch was an older guy. He's got Heinze, and I'm coming from Heinze at USA. I'm like, dude, this guy's nuts, man. And I'm like, he's not gonna like this, and I'm telling him that.
Yeah.
And then he's just we'll come in, and Heinze will rip every single person in video for an hour, and then I'll look at Hutch, and it's just like a normal day. Like, oh, okay. And I'm like, that's how you got to be, though. That's pro hockey. You got to
Yep.
take it with a grain of salt and move on and be better the next day. And so, like little things like that, I think go a long way when you're kind of learning it all, especially in your pro career. I mean, pro is a whole nother animal. I
Mhm.
feel because you have a mix of the college, junior, and everyone is supposed to be the best of the best. And then you get there and it's like, oh, I'm not I'm not on the first line, I'm not on the power play. Like, what's this? And then you got all these egos and attitudes. So you got to learn how to manage it. And
Mhm.
that's the one thing where John Hines did a good job of that's why we were good in Wilkes-Barre. I mean, he made sure everyone knew where they were in that lineup, and you're not going to move from that spot unless you earn it. And so kind of things like that.
Yeah, I
That's
take so
good.
much of lessons from Heinze when it comes to coaching, like with the kids now. And I mean, my kids, I've had them for 13, 14 years, or excuse me, they are 13, 14-year-olds. I've had them for about 5 years now for AAA. And, they're all pretty familiar. I've got some new guys this year, so we'll see how they adapt. But I coach pretty hard, but what I always tell them is it's not personal. And I go, and you can ask any of the guys that are sitting next to you that have played for me. I will never attack you personally. If I'm upset, it's the group. It's always at the group, and I'm always going to come grab you later and talk to you on the side. Like it's all done the right way. I think there's a stigma around coaching too hard or being loud or whatever it is. And it's like, well, no, there's a time and a place for things, and it's how you go about it. Right. And I think that one of my biggest takeaways from Heinze was how he coached. And that's, I emulate, I won't even put myself even close to the platform of how he was with us in Ann Arbor, but I take a lot from him on that.
No,
No, and I
I
just want,
hear you. I hear you, man. Like, dude, I'll never forget. Like, even in pro hockey, these guys had no clue what to think at Wilkes-Barre when he blew down the first fucking drill. And you take a shot on that normal shooting drill, take a shot on net, swing to the corner, get in line. Nope, you better stop at that net, or the whole team is doing down and backs. And that's what he did the whole first practice. And never again did he have to remind us to stop at the net. Like,
yeah.
that's Heinze. But sorry to interrupt. Go ahead.
No, that's fine.
Yeah,
No,
you're good.
you're exactly right. Exactly right on that. No, what I was going to piggyback on Ben's question was, you talk about guys that made an impact on you during your career. How about when you got done? Like, again, we've kind of covered already. You were similar to me, didn't really know what you're going to do. Did you have anybody reach out to you? Did you reach out to anybody? Was there anybody specifically at that time, player, family member, whoever, that kind of maybe pushed you in the right direction? It's a little bit different for you. I know wife and you had kids already,
Yeah.
or about to have a kid. Who was there that really was kind of got you going in the right direction?
Yeah, I would say obviously my wife was, I mean, obviously the perfect shoulder let loose on and talk to, and but granted, she never saw a hockey game until we started dating. So it's like it also something where it's like, all right, I gotta talk to one of my buddies, or my older brother was a big sounding board. Same with my younger brother. They just would always text me asking what's going on, and then this and that. How are you doing? Or what are you thinking? So they were like really good with that. But I would say probably the person I talked to the most would be Chris Mueller. He played at Michigan State with me. Me and him have been best friends since Michigan State, and went through similar careers, and then also went through the similar struggles at times. And so I think I went out actually maybe a year before him, I want to say, but then he was the one that was blowing up my phone every day, when I was finally found a job, and he is like, I don't know what to do. And, he's going through a hard time. And I'm like, dude, I feel you, man. I'm like still in it right now, but I'm like kind of out of it. But like it's a grind. It's hard. And so that's what your best friends are for, and it's whether it's even just on the phone and you just want to, let loose and complain and bitch about something. That's, that was kind of someone that I always knew I could call and he would answer, and I could just let loose, and then have him, be on the other end and also help me complain a little bit too, since he's a pretty big complainer.
Well, Lergy, so last thing, like on the serious side, I mean, we got a couple minutes left here and there's really no clock, but just for consistency of the show, like when you look back, I mean, you talked about all the injuries you went through, and you didn't leave on your terms. You left on the terms that you were dealt, and as tough as that was. But like now that you've been away for 5 years or a little more than that. Any advice you have for a player that's maybe 5-6 years into their career after college and they're going along? Is there anything that you've thought about that you might have done differently? And what would you tell that player maybe at that stage of their pro career, 5 or 6 years in, let's say?
Oh man. Honestly, I just think like if you're through college, you're breaking into pro, there's a lot of kids that don't really know what to expect, and also could be dealt a situation where maybe it's not the right fit. So you don't give up. That's the thing. Like I feel like my career is the perfect example of that. Because going to Edmonton, 2 years in the minors, playing half the games in the minors, sent to the East Coast League. And then I'm like, go to Europe, on a tryout in Switzerland, come back home to Wilkes on a tryout. Then I go to Cleveland, blow out 2 knees in 13 months. And then after that, I'm like, I know, fuck, I'm probably done. And then San Jose gives me a chance. And I just worked my butt off to get in my best shape I could, try and, get my knees feeling good. It's just don't give up. You never know when the time's right, like gonna happen. Like it could be when you're 21 or 18. For me, my first game was I was 29 years old. I think I was probably one of the older, I think in the top 2 or 3 in San Jose for debuts. But 29 years old is pretty freaking old to do your NHL debut. And
well, look at Dominic Shine. Look at the kid not kid. He's 30 years old, right? I mean, another example, right?
Yeah, and it's just literally stick to the course, man. Don't change. I mean, if you're doing things the right way, don't change. It's somehow it's gonna work out, and you stick to the course, work your butt off, and prove people wrong. I'm a smaller guy. I'm bulkier, but a shorter guy, and that's one thing I fought my whole career. And he's probably not tall enough. I had to play bigger. That's why I played like I was 6'2", even though I'm 5'9". But that's probably why I have all these injuries. Like it's literally I had to, like I couldn't just be a skill guy and think I'm going to make it the NHL. No, I had to play a role where I'm going to go run guys over, but also be a guy who's going to run the power play and be on the penalty kill, like things like that. So you got to do things like that and get noticed and be available. I was a versatile player, and I think that's the biggest thing for most kids is learn to play everything, because if you can only play power play or 5-on-5 and try and zip through everyone. It's not going to work. If you're called up to the NHL, you're not getting called up to play on the first line in the first power play. You're getting called up to play on the fourth line. So you better know how to cycle the puck and run bodies over. So it's things like that. You got to be versatile, stick to your work ethic, and hey, just believe in yourself. It'll come.
Being a Swiss Army knife, right? That's
right.
kind of what you're getting at. And that is so important. Right. Learning how you're gonna be able to play multiple roles and not be one dimensional is so important. I did want to ask you real quick, because you mentioned it when you were talking. So did you make Wilkes did you go there on a PTO to start?
I left Switzerland. I went to Switzerland for like 2 months. Actually, Benny knows Dan Vukovic. He was over there at the time.
Oh yeah.
I lived with Vuk for 2 months, went on a tryout there.
Yeah.
They ended up signing another import. So they let me practice with them for a couple of weeks and said, hey, you're not going to be here, but I think I played one regular season game, and they're like, you're not going to be here, but you can stay as long as you want in practice. So I practiced for a couple of weeks, and my agent got a hold of Heinze and went to Wilkes on a tryout. And I remember living in a hotel that whole year on a tryout. And then the next year I ended up getting an AHL deal. And that's when me and I think it was Ben Street. I don't know if you know him. Me and Ben Street, like he came up from the coast. Me and him like led the team in bunch of stuff that year, and that's when I got my deal with Colorado after that.
Okay, well, we have that in common then too. I made Wilkes on a tryout. I was same thing, got a hold of Heinze, and hey, you don't really have like a spot per se, but like you can come on a PTO to training camp. And I'll never forget, it was either 4 or 5. I can't remember. I had 4 or 5 games, 4 days in a row, whatever it was. Like I had to play every single preseason game because he's like, you got to prove to whoever here that, and I'm like, totally get it. But I was like 4-4 or something. And I remember that 4th game, I was like, my God, I better make this team, man.
Dude,
so that's another thing we have in common,
man. About Heinze, man, like if he likes you, man, he'll give you a shot, man. And like he obviously liked both of us, and he gave us both a shot, and he kind of did the same thing with me. He's like, hey, prove it, man. Let's see it. And I remember starting like on the 4th line there for a bit, and then after like a couple weeks, he kept giving me a little more leash, and eventually it turned into something really good. But no, that just goes to show you, Heinze won, if you can dedicate yourself and play the way he likes, like, hell, he might take you right now.
Let's go, Carmi. Big comeback.
He hasn't seen me skate recently. It's been a decade.
Yeah, I hear you, man.
You're healthy. Get out there. Give it a shot, man.
Healthy-ish. I might be a little thicker than I was when I played, so I don't know. I might get fat camp.
You'll be even better in the corners, man.
Yeah,
heavier on the puck.
Yeah, we can go to fat camp together, then I'll be there with you.
Oh man, Carmi, you got anything else?
No, that's all, man. We appreciate you coming on. I know you have a good connection with Benny, and like I said, we just missed each other in so many paths. I obviously knew who you were, and so it was fun to chat with you and catch up. And we'll have to, if I come out to coach out in your area, give you a holler, and we'll get together.
Yeah. Let me know, man, for sure. No, it was awesome. Thanks for having me on, guys. It was a blast. We could go all night, I'm sure. So we should probably let you guys go.
Yeah, I'm sure we could. Any parting words from you?
Go green, baby.
Of course. We'll see, Lergy.
I know. No. I think it's Minnesota.
We're literally rocking right now. I have a
Minnesota's legit.
What?
Yeah, it's going to be fun, man. I've said it. I said it back in October. I don't know who it's going to be. Could be State, could be Minnesota, could be Michigan, as much as neither one of you want to hear that. It could be Penn State. Who the hell knows? But a Big Ten team is winning the national championship this year. Back in October, I'm looking good in that regard now, boys.
I'm hoping for a BC Michigan State final in St. Louis, like when we won 07 against BC in St. Louis.
So I stay in touch with Darnell. I don't know. You guys are.
I know Darnell. I talk to him all the time.
Meat potatoes, man. We gave him his nickname. Me and Richland one night at Notre Dame. We gave him that nickname. And I texted him a few weeks ago. He was texting me when we were doing the game at Caesars, and just back and forth, having fun like you and I. And I said, man, you guys are going to play state. And he goes, I will not sleep and I may die if that happens.
I asked him, I said, what happens if you play state in the national championship? He said, I'm not sure. I might be up all night puking the night before. He goes, I won't be able to handle it.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
but no,
all right,
it's all
fellas.
good. Thanks a lot, guys. I really appreciate it. It's a lot of fun.
Lerg, you too, man. Say
Great
hi
time.
to your dad. Say hi to your mom and all your family, man. Appreciate the friendship. It's been a long time, brother. We've known each other for 21 years now. So,
oh yeah,
glad to see you're doing well. And you know, you're a busy guy with a lot of things, obviously, with the coaching and scouting with Winnipeg a little bit. You told me, and obviously being a dad, man. That's awesome
busy
stuff, man. Thanks
busy,
for your time,
man. You know, thank you guys. I appreciate it.
Yeah, hopefully I'll see you up at Mon in a couple of weeks. Carmi, good seeing you, my friend, as always, and we'll reconvene next week with an all-new edition of When the Game Ends. It'll be episode number 20. We'll be talking with Matt Ford on that episode. Until then, thanks for watching When the Game Ends.